We're sitting here in Cardiff today, less than an hour's drive from Port Talbot, and joined by the First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford. Before we talk to him, let me just remind you, he's been in post since 2018, so he will clearly outlast Boris Johnson's length of tenure. He's generally regarded as the complete opposite of Mr Johnson in character and in beliefs. He did study Latin at university, so I suppose there's a classical connection of sorts. But as I say, Mr Drakeford, seen as the antithesis of the outgoing Prime Minister. Mark Drakeford, thank you so much for joining us in the studio here in Cardiff. I'd like to talk to you about Boris Johnson and the relationship with him, but we should just first talk about Port Talbot. Are you on the side of Tutter or on the side of a British government that's probably reluctant to spend £1.5 billion?
Well, the Welsh Government continues to be on the side of a British steel industry. We've supported Tata throughout the whole of the devolution period. None of this is new to the UK Government. I wrote to the Prime Minister myself at the end of April, setting all this out. I spoke to senior members of the UK Government in June to emphasise the urgency of responding to what Tata has been saying to the UK Government for many months. The UK Government talks a lot about global Britain. Well, what have we not learnt from the last few years, where we put our reliance entirely on producers of essential goods from outside the United Kingdom? If we don't have an indigenous steel industry, we will once again be very badly exposed to the times and tides that flow in other industries.
Is there a danger, though, that there's a negotiation going on here about how much the taxpayer foots and how much Tata foot, and you are in danger of becoming a lobbying arm for the Tata Corporation against the British taxpayer?
Well, what I've been lobbying for is not on behalf of any particular firm. What I've been lobbying the UK Government to do is to come to a decision. This has gone on for months and months and months, and what Tata are saying to the UK Government at the moment are that they don't believe that they are taking this argument and this decision seriously enough. And the fact that we are now going to have to wait again for yet another Prime Minister to arrive, and no doubt to familiarise themselves with all these arguments all over again, this simply is not an adequate response to an urgent proposition that seeks to sustain steelmaking, not just in Wales, but across the United Kingdom, an essential United Kingdom purpose.
Let's talk about UK government more generally. Is it your impression that we're in this hiatus now, that the Westminster government is off duty?
Yeah, well, we had a zombie government for months and months. My complaint for a long time has been not about conduct of individuals. I'm not interested in the fate of particular politicians. But what we've not been able to do is to transact the day-to-day business of government, because government at Westminster has been wholly preoccupied with dealing with a succession of scandals that in the end overwhelmed the Johnson government. Now we've gone from a zombie government to no government at all, as what has happened today in relation to steel so vividly demonstrates.
Can you give another example? I mean, the steel one we've talked about. Is there something where you have a file waiting to be dealt with and you can't get the attention of the Westminster government?
Yeah, so a whole series of issues. There was a Queen's speech only a few weeks ago. What will become of that, I wonder, in the hands of a new Prime Minister? A series of those bills had implications for Wales. I wanted to have early and rapid discussions between my ministers and UK ministers to resolve any issues that would arise between us. You can't have those sorts of discussions. At official level, no doubt there are things that go back and forth, but the idea that you have a functioning government at the UK level able to have what in other circumstances would be, the day in, day out, small change of intergovernmental cooperation just can't be done.
Are you glad to see Boris Johnson going?
Well, as I say, I'm not preoccupied with the fate of individuals in that way. I do think it had become impossible to imagine a Johnson-led government continuing.
How are your personal relations with him?
Distant, I would say. I did have a telephone call from the Prime Minister in early in the week in which he decided to stand down, and that would be the first direct contact I would have had with him in over a year.
What?
Well, the Prime Minister was, absent from the issues which, in my view, are to do with the preservation of the United Kingdom. Here's another really urgent matter that you need a UK government to be engaged in. But we leave the Johnson era with a weakened union, with a botched Brexit, with our reputation around the world damaged. And from where I sit, we simply didn't have an administration that was in any way seriously committed to having the sorts of discussions that would have allowed those matters to be progressed.
Tell me about the issue of the Union flag, the Union Jack, big Union Jack they wanted to put up.
Indeed, just opposite where we are sitting.
Tell me about it, because I think there became a little bit of an argument. You thought it wasn't a good idea.
Well, it's not a good idea, because you do not strengthen the union by the sort of aggressive approach to it that the Johnson administration adopted.
How big was it?
It was the whole size of one of the major buildings in the centre of Cardiff. It would have looked like something out of Eastern Europe.
But you're a unionist. You're not a Welsh nationalist.
No.
You want Wales as part of the UK.
Yeah, I believe in the union.
We can fly union flags on government buildings in Wales then, no?
We do from the Welsh Government building, and it flies down in the Senedd as well, but it is proportionate. It doesn't seek to dominate the landscape with that aggressive message of a sort of imperialist unionism in which a UK government seeks to impose itself on other parts of the United Kingdom. That is so destructive. It only adds to the fissures. It only antagonises people who want to see the United Kingdom succeed but aren't prepared to do it on the basis of a bully boy Britain.
Should Boris Johnson or the new Prime Minister give Nicola Sturgeon the referendum on independence that she wants for Scotland?
Well, I've always been clear that if you have a government that is elected by its people with such a proposition in its manifesto, it should have the right to implement that manifesto. The Scottish National Party, much as I disagree with them on the issue, won an election on the basis that they would seek another referendum. How can that be denied to the Scottish people?
Mark Drakeford, First Minister of Wales, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.